Shocking moment, broke single dad reaches last dollar for diapers, rich CEO steps in at 3 a.m. In the heart of the city, the clock struck 3. The streets were drenched in silence, a heavy blanket of darkness wrapping around the silent buildings. It was a time when dreams fell asleep, but not for everyone. In a dimly lit convenience store, Jake, a single dad with a weary face and an empty wallet, held his breath. His hands trembled as he counted his last dollar, sweat beading on his brow. Desperation gripped his heart like a vice. How could he go home empty-handed? The tiny, quivering body of his infant daughter waited, innocent and oblivious to his struggles. A single diaper. It was all he needed. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, buzzing like a swarm of anxious bees. Just then, a sound cut through the silence, a low, guttural growl of a revving engine. Jake turned, worry creeping up his spine. The rumbling grew louder, a strange disturbance in the stillness of the night, echoing through the narrow aisles filled with snacks and soda. He peered through the glass door, and saw a sleek black car pull up to the curb, glimmering like a predator in the dark. Who was this late-night visitor? An unsettling feeling prickled Jake's skin. As if pulled by an invisible string, a man stepped out. Tall, impeccably dressed, he emanated power. The glint of cold cash peeked from his wallet, raising the hairs on Jake's neck. Was he friend or foe? Just as the man entered the store, the corner of Jake's mouth twitched, the overwhelming anxiety coiling in his stomach. Had this CEO come to do good? Or to rub salt into his open wounds? As the man approached the counter, Jake's eyes widened, holding tightly to that last dollar with a grip like iron. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The CEO's piercing gaze fell on Jake. I can help you, he said, his voice smooth like satin, yet carrying an unsettling weight. A million questions surged in Jake's mind. What did this stranger want? Why was he standing there, draped in arrogance and mystery? The world around them felt suspended in time, as though the very air crackled with electricity. Was this an opportunity, a way out of the crushing weight of despair? Or was it a trap, designed to stomp on the hopes of a man already down on his luck? Jake's heart raced, his pulse quickening so loudly in his ears he could hardly hear his thoughts. The fluorescent lights flickered again, pushing the scene into shadow and light. The man leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. What's it gonna be? In that critical moment, everything teetered on the edge. Jake's world and the promises of a wealthy stranger collided in spectacular fashion, spiraling into darkness or light. What choice would he make? Would he accept the hand reaching out to him, or let it slip away? As uncertainty wrapped around him like barbed wire, the question hung heavy in the air, begging to be answered. The flicker of fluorescent lights created a strobe-like effect, casting shadows as Jake's heart pounded in his chest. He could see the cool confidence of the CEO, a glint of satisfaction in his eyes, like he enjoyed playing with Jake's fate like a cat with a mouse. What do you want from me? Jake managed, his voice trembling. He could almost taste the fear rising in his throat. The aisle stretched out between them, yet it felt like an ocean separating a drowning man from a rescuer. The man smiled, his teeth white and sharp. Just a small favor in return for a little help. Jake's instincts screamed danger. He knew better than to trust a stranger with a briefcase full of money. In his world, nothing came free. Like what? He countered, his grip on the dollar tightening to the point of pain. Relax, the CEO said, his tone smooth and dismissive. Just a minor investment. Your time, your experience. We could put that to good work. A side gig, you know. The air grew thick around Jake, damp and suffocating, as he tried to comprehend what the man was suggesting. I don't want to get involved in anything shady, he stuttered. His thoughts raced. Was this a front for something illegal? A scam? He already had enough on his plate. The CEO leaned back, an air of disappointment creeping in. See, it's a shame you're being so cautious. I could help you crawl out of that pit you're in. He gestured towards the dollar in Jake's hand. Or we could leave it at that. You walk out of here without a diaper, and I go on my way. The choices loomed larger than life. A quick glance at the door showed the night outside remained silent, waiting. His daughter's face flitted through his mind, those tiny hands clutching a worn blanket, her fragile gurgle echoing in their small apartment. As desperation clawed at him, an idea took root. What's the catch? Jake asked, his voice more assertive, defiance overlaying his fear. You want me to do something, right? The CEO's eyes gleamed, a predatory focus honing in. Just gather your skills. A small task in the name of investment. The man stepped closer, invading Jake's space, lowering his voice. Maybe even the opportunity to change your future. It's not every day you meet someone who can lead you to more wealth. Jake squared his shoulders, filled with a mix of longing and reluctance. The lure of wealth pulsated through the room, enticing him like a siren's song, yet the uncertainty tightened his stomach. Could he risk it all for a promise veiled in shadows? What if I say yes? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper, knowing full well the weight of that decision. Then we get to work, the CEO said, a smirk breaking across his lips. You're more capable than you realize. Let's put that bravado to the test. Before Jake could respond, the CEO reached out a hand, palm open, an offer he never expected. The hum of the convenience store seemed to fade away, leaving only the two of them locked in a dance of fate. As Jake stared at the hand before him, confusion and fear spiraled within him. This could change everything, and yet what would he be trading away for a shot at a better life? The weight of the moment pressed on his chest, threatening to consume him. He faced a decision that could shatter his world, or build a new one. Just then, the store's door swung open with a jingle, letting in a gust of cold night air. Jake's heart sank as he recognized the figure silhouetted in the doorway, a shadow from his past, a person who could unravel everything. Jake! The voice called, firm and familiar. It echoed in the quiet space, a reminder of all he had tried to leave behind. And just like that, the stakes skyrocketed. Jake turned, torn between the promise of the unknown and the certainty of what awaited him. What would happen next? Would he take the risk, or would the past come crashing back in? Jake's heart raced as he spun around to face the newcomer. His breath caught in his throat when he realized it was Lisa, an old friend from high school, someone he had thought he might never see again. Her eyes were wide, and for a moment, everything around them faded into a dull echo, leaving just the two of them standing there, frozen in time. Lisa? He stammered, caught off guard by the wave of emotions flooding him. It had been years since his life had twisted into chaos, and seeing her here felt like a cruel twist of fate. Jake! What are you doing here? She asked, concern etched into her features. She didn't seem to notice the CEO standing ominously behind him, a predator hidden in plain sight. It's complicated, he muttered, glancing back at the man who had, moments ago, dabbled in promises of wealth. The CEO's smirk had returned, an amused glint in his eye as if he enjoyed this new development. Are you okay? You look stressed, like you're in over your head, Lisa said, stepping closer. Her voice lowered, a soft urgency that tugged at him. Do you need help? Before he could respond, the CEO interjected, his tone slick and casual. I believe your friend has wandered into a rough patch, my dear. But don't worry, I can help him out for a price, of course. Jake's stomach churned. The roots of his predicament were all laid bare before Lisa, and panic engulfed him. He didn't want her to see him like this, teetering on the edge, offering his life away to strangers in exchange for hope. "I'm fine, really," he forced out, though the lie tasted bitter on his tongue. Lisa raised an eyebrow, clearly unconvinced. "You're not fooling anyone, Jake. Is it really worth it? Whatever deal you're contemplating?" Jake felt the weight of the CEO's gaze boring into his back, a reminder of the stakes he was up against. He had to keep his past hidden, to shield Lisa from his crumbling life. But the temptation of escape was strong, and he hesitated. "You don't understand. This might be my only chance, to provide for Emily." Instinctively, he glanced at the dollar bill tightly clutched in his fist, now soaked with the sweat of anxiety. "Oh, Jake," she said, her voice softening. "This isn't you. I remember the ambitious dreamer who wanted to change the world, not someone who runs after quick fixes. Please, just think about it." The CEO chuckled, the sound smooth yet sinister. "A noble thought, but sometimes we must choose the quickest route when desperation calls, don't we?" The air shifted, thick with tension. Jake felt trapped, caught between the world of promises and the voice of his past urging him to turn back. His heart raced as he contemplated the deal becoming a lifeline or a noose. "Look, I can help you," Lisa insisted, her hands pleading. "Let me in. You don't have to do this alone." Her words hung in the air, igniting a flicker of hope within him. But the other choice loomed larger, the CEO's hand, still extended, waiting. Jake realized that he stood at a crucial junction, one that would decide not just his fate, but that of his daughter as well. "5 seconds, Jake," the CEO coaxed. "Make your choice." Time seemed to waver, the atmosphere crackling with unspoken words and unresolved fates. The temptation of wealth and success teetered against the values with which he had been raised. He could feel the pull of each decision, like strings tied to his heart, tugging him from every direction. Just as Jake opened his mouth to speak, the lights flickered again, plunging the store into darkness for the briefest moment. A soft scream echoed from somewhere in the store. Somebody had seen something. Had his past come back to haunt him in the most public way possible? Then the lights returned, illuminating the chaos around him. Someone rushed in from the door, crashing into Lisa and causing her to stumble. Jake's blood ran cold at the sight of the figure stepping out of the shadows, the very man he had tried so hard to escape. "Jake, we need to talk." The weight of his past now bare and exposed, Jake's fate hung in the balance. Would he stand and fight against the tides of his reckoning, or would he plunge into the abyss offered by the CEO? The tension crackled, a moment poised between the unknown and the inevitable. What would be the price of his choices? "Jake, we need to talk," the shadowy figure said again, stepping closer and forcing the light to reveal a face that had haunted Jake's dreams. Rick, his old business partner. The man he trusted most had become the snake in his garden of hopes. Jake felt an icy fist grip his heart as memories of betrayal rushed back. "Get away from him!" Lisa shouted, stepping in front of Jake, her body instinctively shielding him. Rick raised his hands. "Whoa, calm down. I'm not here to hurt anybody. I'm here to help. Jake, I swear." The thin veneer of trust had long shattered between them, and Jake's mind raced. Help? Rick was a wrecking ball disguised as a friend. "What do you want, Rick?" Jake spat, his fists clenching. "You have no business in my life anymore." "Oh, but I do," Rick replied, his voice low and conspiratorial. "I know things, Jake. Things that would make your head spin. Do you really think this CEO can be trusted? He's after something much bigger than you." The words hung there like poison, twisting Jake's insides. Every instinct screamed at him to push Rick away, but the man was right about one thing: the CEO was the embodiment of danger. Behind Jake, the CEO's smooth reputation started to crack. "Oh, Rick, you haven't changed at all. Always playing the savior, aren't we?" Jake looked back at Lisa, who stood wide-eyed, just as confused as he felt. How had he gone from desperation to a reunion with ghosts? What are you talking about? He demanded of Rick, trying to keep his voice steady. What do you know? Rick grinned a shark in a suit and leaned in closer, speaking in a tone meant for only Jake's ears. Let's just say, you're not the only one with something to lose here. This deal. It's a trap, Jake. You're not buying your way out, you're signing yourself up for a lifetime of servitude. Jake could feel nausea rise within him. You think I don't know desperation? If there's a chance I can save my daughter, I have to take it. Yet, even as he spoke, doubt crawled into his mind like a spider. What was he really getting into? Jake. Lisa's voice punctured the web of his thoughts, pulling him back. You're not alone. Whatever it is, we can figure it out. Just don't jump into something that could destroy you. He began, feeling the fierce tug of friendship, and the hint of warmth in her gaze, but then he stole a glance at the CEO, a wolf in sheep's clothing. The man showed no sign of cracking, his smirk only grew wider as he surveyed the unfolding drama. Time's ticking, Jake, the CEO said, pulling out his phone with a flourish. Your chance for a better life is right here, but don't take too long to ponder. In this business, opportunities are fleeting. Do we have a deal? A lump formed in Jake's throat, and his breath hitched a premonition of doom settling in his chest. Was he really considering this? And at what cost? Behind him, Lisa took a step forward, ready to reach out again, but she hesitated, then Rick took advantage of the distracted moment, moving closer to Jake. If you want to talk about real options, I have a plan. A real plan, not this nonsense. Jake's mind spooled with uncertainty. What had been a simple moment of decision had evolved, and all paths led to shadows he wasn't sure he could escape. He turned back and forth, battling the fears that lodged in his heart like shards of glass. The tension built, electrifying the air, forcing him to stand at the brink of choice between betrayal and fleeting hope. With every passing second, the weight of decisions loomed larger, and his grip on the truth seemed to slip. For every option, there were layers of consequences lurking just out of view, waiting for the moment he made his choice. And he knew his next words could change everything. Jake, listen to me. Lisa pleaded again. You have to choose wisely. We can break this cycle, but it starts with you. Jake's pulse pounded in his ears. The CEO laughed softly, a sound that sent chills down his spine. Choose wisely. You think that's an option? Jake. Rick's eyes were stormy. I can help you. Just say the word, and I'll show you the truth. A final push, a final decision. What would he do? The room felt like it was closing in as the weight of his future pressed against him from all sides. And then, he opened his mouth to decide. I'm in. I'll take the deal, Jake blurted out, the words escaping before he could grasp the gravity of them. A moment of silence enveloped the room, thick enough to cut. Lisa's expression hardened, her eyes wide with disbelief. Jake, no. You can't be serious. Rick's mouth twisted into a smirk, drawing closer as if sensing victory. You just made the smartest decision of your life, my friend. You won't regret this. But in the pit of his stomach, a churning doubt began to take root, its tendrils wrapping around his resolve. The CEO had watched the entire exchange with an amused glimmer in his eye. Well, Jake, he said smoothly, it appears you're ready to play in the big leagues. Let's discuss terms. Behind Jake, Lisa looked ready to explode, and for a vice-like second, he felt suffocated by the choices spiraling around him. This isn't about me. He shouted, the urgency of his daughter's situation boiling over. I need to do this for her. We'll talk later, Rick urged, stepping up and gesturing toward the CEO. Just trust me. We can work together. Work together? The CEO chuckled, but the sound was frigid. Let's keep it professional, shall we? The clock is still ticking. He glanced at his phone again, the blue light casting a ghostly glow on his face. You really think you can save your daughter with a simple handshake? There's so much more at stake than you realize. Despite the indignation clawing at his chest, Jake could feel the walls closing in, regret and fear creeping into the edges of his mind. He turned, meeting Lisa's gaze, searching for understanding, support, anything to anchor him in this storm. But her eyes were stormy, they pleaded with him not to lose himself in the chaos. Jake, she whispered, her voice trembling. You don't have to do this alone. Don't let them manipulate you. We can figure it out, I swear. I wish I could believe that, he replied, the hopelessness seeping into his tone. But I've tried everything. This is my last shot. The CEO's grin broadened, revealing a predatory gleam. Wise choice, Jake. Now let me show you just how deep this rabbit hole goes. With that, he signaled to someone behind him. A man stepped into view, holding a tablet adorned with images and blueprints that Jake couldn't decipher, but that screamed secrecy and danger. Take a look, the CEO said. Once you sign this agreement, a whole new world will unlock for you. Your daughter's well-being will be secured, provided you follow the path laid out for you. Rick leaned closer again, urgency scratched on his forehead. You don't have to sign anything yet, Jake. Not without seeing the full picture. The two men stood down, a silhouette of darkness and light just a whisper away from eternal trust or betrayal. Seconds dragged, each one feeling like a half hour. And as Jake squinted at the tablet, he felt a tremor beneath the surface, a shiver of dread. There had to be strings attached. Decisions, the CEO droned, the amusement in his voice layered with danger. What's it going to be, Jake? Trust your old partner or take the step into the unknown? Heart hammering, Jake felt the pressure build. His instincts screeched alarms, but desperation for his daughter muted them. An echo of footsteps clattered behind him, shadows swirled in the periphery as the door creaked open. Another figure emerged, silhouetted against the bright light spilling into the room, a presence that altered the air dynamics and sent Jake's instincts soaring like a shot arrow. Jake, wait. It was a voice he hadn't anticipated. Every eye turned toward the newcomer, tension crackling in the air. The stakes shifted in that instant, Jake's surface calm fractured under the weight of uncertainty. What would this new player mean for his already precarious situation? All eyes were fixed on the doorway as the tension thickened, slowly choking hope with uncertainty. Who are you? Jake managed to ask, a flutter of dread tightening around his heart, knowing well that in this world, every new arrival could be a harbinger of change or chaos. The figure stepped fully into the room, revealing a woman with striking features and eyes that seemed to pierce through the suffocating silence. She wore a sharp business suit, but there was an edge about her, a sort of desperation mingling with determination. Jake's heart raced as he struggled to place her. I know this looks bad, but I'm here to help, she said, her voice steady, cutting through the tension. Rick's smirk evaporated, replaced by a deadly seriousness. Help? Lisa echoed, incredulous. How can you help us? We need. She knows things, Lisa. I think she might actually have information, Jake interrupted, surprise throwing his voice a bit too high. The woman stepped closer, ignoring Rick and the CEO's widening eyes, as if she felt the weight of Jake's desperation. I'm Sarah. I've been working against them for years. You don't have to sign anything tonight. The CEO's expression morphed from amusement to annoyance. This is highly inappropriate, he snapped, his voice low and menacing. You've broken our agreement, and this will have consequences. Consequences? Sarah shot back, a fierce glint in her eye. You think I'm afraid of you? You want to play games? Fine. But I can promise you, I will expose you. Jake blinked, the implications swirling in his mind. Who was this woman? And why did she seem to know so much about the darkness lurking behind the CEO's confident facade? Think about it, Jake, Sarah continued, taking a step toward him. Signing that contract means you step deeper into their web. It'll cost you more than you're willing to pay. You have a chance to save your daughter, but not like this. A pulse of anger surged through him. And how exactly do you plan to help? What can you offer that they can't? Information, she said. Vital information that could turn the tables on him and his cronies. I know the truth about what they're really after and how they manipulate their pawns. You don't need to lose yourself in the process. Jake found himself torn, the weight of her words colliding with the fear for his daughter. The images on the tablet began to blur in his vision. The CEO smirked, tapping his fingers on the table, a predator waiting to pounce. Don't listen to her, Jake. She's just trying to get in your head. I can guarantee you a future for your daughter, stability, all the things you've dreamed of, he said smoothly. But at what cost? Lisa stood her ground, the early fire rekindling in her eyes. You're selling your soul. You're gambling with Jake's future, not just his. The room vibrated with conflicting intentions, each player battling the other. Rick shifted, tightening his jaw, and Jake's focus snapped back to him, lined that predatory edge again. Enough of this nonsense, Sarah, the CEO warned, waving her off as he turned to Jake, smiling once more. You've got a choice to make, Jake. Join us, become one of the powerful, or take the risk with this interloper. The clock is ticking, and time is running out for your daughter. An icy dread washed over Jake. Did he really want to leap into a darkness he couldn't comprehend? Or was Sarah's path filled with its own dangers and impossibilities? Which way will you go? Rick's words sliced through the tension, and the air felt electric. A clock ticked loudly in the silence, each tick resonating like a warning bell. Sweat beaded at Jake's temples as he weighed the options, both laden with risk, both shouting for his attention. Could he really trust Sarah, or was this a trap woven from lies? What's it going to be, Jake? With every heartbeat, it became clearer, the choice he made next could change everything. But as he opened his mouth to speak, the lights flickered, plunging the room into darkness. A sudden crash echoed from somewhere outside, an ominous prelude that hinted disaster was barreling closer. Jake! Lisa shouted, panic creeping into her voice. We need to make a decision. A choice. Light or dark. Just then, a loud roar echoed in the distance, vibrating the very foundation beneath them, a sound more than a promise of turmoil. Would clarity finally pierce the chaos? Or would something even more catastrophic emerge from the shadows, leaving no one safe? The room felt like it was shrinking, suffocating Jake in an unbearable tension, his breath hitching in his throat. Darkness enveloped them, the screech of metal against metal echoed ominously from the outside. He could sense the panic swirling around him, a chaotic energy threatening to erupt. Jake! Are you there? Lisa's voice quaked with urgency, and despite the uncertainty, he reached out, trying to find her, to anchor himself. His fingers brushed against her arm, and he steadied himself, drawing a deep breath, as if that could silence the chaos outside. Stay calm, he said, his voice steadying despite the tremor in his gut. Focus on Sarah. We need to hear what she has to say. And then, in the pitch black, he heard it, the soft rustling of fabric, the quick shuffle of shoes. Sarah's voice cut through the noise just as he feared he might lose all sense of direction. Listen, both of you, we don't have much time. The crash outside, it's not just noise. They're coming, and if you don't stand with me, you could lose everything. In a split second, the lights flashed back to life. The dim glow revealed panicked eyes and clenched fists. Bills and decisions loomed large in the flickering light like ghosts of their pasts. Jake's heart thundered now with urgency. He darted a glance at Rick, whose expression transformed from arrogance to looming rage. Stop playing games, Sarah, Rick growled, his voice a low threat. This is your last warning. Jake moved instinctively, stepping between Sarah and Rick. Whatever vendetta Rick had against her, he could feel that Sarah wasn't the enemy here. You can't threaten us. There's too much at stake. A growing shadow loomed just outside the window, something dark and menacing, and suddenly a loud crack shattered the tension. The windows trembled as if the force of rage or power was flexing against security. "That's just a distraction," Sarah said, urgency flooding her tone. "They want you distracted while they move against us." "What do you mean?" Jake felt the edges of doubt mature with every second. "Who is coming?" She glanced towards the window with dread, but then her gaze locked onto Jake. "Those on top think they can control everything. Your hesitation could cost you your daughter." Jake's resolve hardened. "I need a plan. I can't risk everything just on blindly trusting you." "Not blindly," she insisted, her voice a lifeline. "Trust that this is your chance to unveil everything. You've seen the horrors firsthand. You felt the crushing weight of loss. Don't let that continue. I know their weakness." The silence wrapped around them again, thick with unspoken truths and shared fear. The flickering lights did little to hide the uncertainty that gripped them. Jake's gaze moved between Lisa, caught between hope and fear, and Rick, whose barely concealed fury was building like a storm. Suddenly, a figure lurched into the room, a heavy-set man, sweat-soaked and wild. He stumbled, taking them by surprise. "They're coming in. We've got to move, now." Jake's heart raced. The walls they thought protected them felt like they'd begun to crumble. But before he could catch his breath, Rick lunged forward, a powerful predator unmasked. "Enough of this nonsense. You're not taking anything from me." The chaos erupted, hands pushing and shoving, breaths quickening as darkness seeped in. In a heartbeat, choices spun in every direction, blurred and terrifying. Jake's instincts screamed, yet still he hesitated. With a sudden crash, something heavy slammed against the door. Desperation danced in the air like smoke, painful and choking. Sarah grabbed Jake's arm, her grip fierce. "You have to make your choice, Jake. Now." Faced with imminent danger, Jake understood there was no more time. They had seconds to decide between light and dark, safety and despair. Could they truly fight back? Or was it too late? In that critical heartbeat, the door bucked again, and Jake squared his shoulders, ready to make a stand. Jake's heart thudded against his ribs as the door rattled violently, the heavy weight of uncertainty crashing down. The looming shadow outside felt like a monster, eager to devour whatever light remained within the room. "Jake!" Lisa's voice broke through the din, the panic in her tone slicing through his fog of thoughts. "What are we going to do?" The chaos spun around him, but he couldn't let fear take over. He took a breath, a futile attempt to calm the storm brewing inside. "We fight. We protect each other." Sarah squeezed his arm tighter. "This isn't a normal battle, Jake. If you don't trust me, let the darkness take you. But know this: their real power lies in your fear." It was Rick, though, who broke the moment, pushing against them like a tidal wave. "Enough of this nonsense." He shouted again, the hint of desperation in his voice morphing into mockery. "What do you think you're going to do? Battle them with your stupid plans?" Then, as if to challenge his bravado, there came another heavy thud. The door groaned under the pressure. They needed a way out, but in every direction, there was only chaos. The walls felt like they were closing in, just like the darkness outside. "Don't let him get to you," Sarah urged, channeling her intensity to rally them. "He's just a distraction like the crash." They all experienced the echo of metal clashing, lingering in their ears, a reminder of something worse that could crush their very existence. Jake's own memories flickered, his daughter laughing, the night they sat under the stars, his heart filled with hope. He couldn't let that hope snuff out. The air grew thick and heavy when the door cracked again. Jake's stomach turned as they all turned to face it. Sweat dripped down his temples, pooling in his collar, but he wasn't alone. His friends stood beside him, holding their breaths. "Stick together," he commanded, feeling the resolve build within him. As Lisa and Sarah moved to flank him, Rick stepped back, fear flickering across his face as he realized they weren't about to back down. "You're all making a mistake," he shouted, the confidence crumbling into a frantic plea. Jake locked eyes with Sarah. "What's our best shot? There's an escape route through the kitchen. It's risky, but if we split up, we might be able to confuse them." Her eyes darted, questioning whether confrontation was the better option. "Let us do it," Jake replied. "We don't have another choice." But just as they turned to plot their escape, a shadow lunged from the crack of the door, propelling them back as the door burst open. A figure cloaked in darkness barreled into the room, their breath haggard, eyes wild. "Run!" The command rang clear, electrifying the air. But before Jake could react, Rick moved toward them, his terror flipping to rage. "You're all fools. You think you can escape?" He lunged forward, fists ready, but before he could reach them, the stranger shoved him back. As confusion erupted, Jake saw Lisa's face twist in fear. "Jake, what do we do?" Then realization struck him. Rick wasn't the greatest threat here. The darkness enveloping the room felt alive, ready to consume them all. They needed to act, and fast. "Out the back!" he shouted, pointing toward the kitchen. With adrenaline surging, they dashed, fear igniting their feet as they raced for freedom, the lurking shadows nipping at their heels, but as they reached the kitchen door, Jake paused. The stranger caught his eye, a flicker of humanity in the madness. "Trust me!" The figure shouted just as sirens wailed outside, an anguished sound that stirred his instincts. Jake hesitated, torn between the fear of the unknown and the desperate need to protect his family. Should he stay and fight the looming darkness, or trust the stranger and flee into the night? His heart raced as the sound of heavy footsteps echoed in the hall. The figures outside were closing in fast, and time was evaporating like mist before dawn. "Now or never!" The stranger yelled, urgency wrapping around every syllable, building into a crescendo within Jake's mind. With a final glance back, he lunged towards the door, knowing the choices made would forge the path for them all. But as they dashed through, one question loomed larger than life. Once outside, what awaited them in the darkness? The kitchen was just as Jake feared: chaos and uncertainty. He didn't even take a second to catch his breath. As they rushed through, the dim light flickered, casting unnatural shapes against the walls. The smell of stale grease clung in the air like a warning. "Keep moving!" he yelled, as the sound of crashing echoed from the direction they had come. The lurking darkness was relentless, fueled by something wicked. Each hiss and scrape made the hairs on Jake's arms stand at attention. Outside, the sirens blared louder, slicing through the night like a knife. The shadows danced ominously in the streetlight's glow, and he felt the weight of the night pressing against his chest. He needed to protect Lisa and Sarah. He couldn't shake that thought even as adrenaline pulsed through him. As they burst into the alley, the stranger led the way, but Jake felt an unsettling twist in his gut. Who was this person? What did they know about the terrifying force they were running from? He risked a glance back. Rick stumbled from the kitchen, eyes wild, mouth drawn tight. "Jake!" Rick's voice echoed, desperation bleeding through. "You can't leave. You don't know what you're dealing with." "Shut up." The anger exploded out of Jake. "You're not helping." But was Rick right? Were they running into something worse? "Keep going," the stranger urged, their urgent presence a constant push forward. Out of the corner of his eye, Jake spotted movement, a dark figure slithering from the shadows. Panic ignited in his chest like a flame. "Run!" he shouted. The group sprinted down the alley, their breaths quickening, pounding like a drumbeat of doom. They turned a corner only to stop abruptly. A high brick wall blocked their path ahead. "There's no way over," Sarah cried out. "What do we do?" Lisa's voice was quivering, her fear palpable. "Back!" The stranger lunged, dragging them back into the shadows just as the dark figure they'd seen emerged into the alley. The air crackled with an unnatural chill. Now! The stranger shouted. They dashed toward a narrow opening beside the wall, barely wide enough to squeeze through. As Jake shoved himself and his friends into the narrow space, he felt the darkness close in around them, crawling at his skin. The sounds of footsteps returned, and he could hear growls echoing off the brick. It was as if the night itself had eyes, watching them, waiting with eager anticipation. Once they were through, they stumbled into a small, deserted courtyard littered with trash and debris. Moonlight streamed through, illuminating several exits leading to possible form of safety. But fear tightened in his throat. He felt vulnerable, exposed. "Which way?" Jake asked, voice barely above a whisper. The stranger pointed toward a chain-link gate in the distance. "That way. Move." As they started toward it, the air shifted. A heavy presence loomed behind them, filled with menace. Jake turned just in time to see Rick stepping out from the shadows, eyes blazing with something terrifying. "You think you can escape? You're fools. I'll show you what real darkness is." Fear flooded Jake's veins, but he couldn't afford to show it. He turned and sprinted toward the gate. Heart racing, every instinct screamed to keep moving, to fight or flee. But what was waiting for them on the other side? As they neared the exit, a screech pierced the night, sending chills down Jake's spine. A shadowy figure surged forward, cloaked in a mist of darkness, arms reaching out as if to snatch them back into the abyss. "Jake, look out!" Lisa screamed at a heartbeat. Everything exploded into chaos as the figures collided. What terror lay beyond the gate? Would they find safety, or were they simply running deeper into the darkness? Time was running out. Jake needed to act, and fast. Jake's instincts flared as he raced toward the chain-link gate, a gateway that promised freedom but felt charged with danger. The shadowy figure shuddered behind him, sinister whispers gnawing at the edges of his composure. He could hear Lisa's breath quickening beside him, Sarah urging them forward. "Don't look back!" Sarah shouted, her voice a lifeline in the chaos, but then, a deep growl rumbled behind them, a warning sign that sent a chill down Jake's spine. It was Rick, his eyes wild and manic, like a conductor orchestrating a symphony of fear. "You can't run from your past!" he bellowed, a mixture of rage and desperation that shook Jake to his core. With his heartbeat pounding in his ears, Jake pushed on, dragging his friends behind him. The gate loomed closer, a twisted iron promise of salvation. "Almost there!" he shouted, his breath heaving with urgency, but the scrape of heavy footsteps echoed ominously close, and the darkness surged as if it had a life of its own, reaching for him. "Jake!" Lisa cried out, fear thick in her voice. The gate was tarnished and rusted the way out of this nightmare, but it stood locked, taunting him. He fumbled desperately for the latch, twisting it wildly. The clicks rang hollow, like the sound of his own heartbeat echoing. It won't budge. He garbled, panic clawing at his throat. "Move aside," Sarah ordered, pushing him back and slamming her shoulder against the gate's cold metal. The latch groaned, but didn't give way. Just as Jake opened his mouth to protest, a sharp scream ripped through the air, a cry of pure terror from somewhere deeper in the shadows. Jake's stomach twisted, caught between the pulse of the moment and the edge of hopelessness. "Go!" he screamed at Lisa, shoving her toward Sarah. "Get around it." They needed an escape route. They had to move or be swallowed. Jake turned, ready to face Rick, who was advancing like a predator, the shadows creeping closer to consume them all. Suddenly, the ground beneath shook. The very city felt alive with danger, as if the world were cracking open to reveal the darkest fears alive inside it. Only then, against the encroaching blackness, the unexpected happened. A flash of headlights flooded the alley, a car screeched to a halt, its doors flung open. "Get in!" shouted a man, recognizing the chaos unfolding. "Who are you?" Jake yelled back, instinctively protective. "Friend. Move." Without wasting another breath, he shoved Lisa and Sarah toward the light, the weight of dread lifting just a bit. This was it, they had a chance. As the girls hopped in, he turned one last time to face Rick in the darkness. "Choose wisely, Jake. You're making a mistake." Rick's voice echoed, desperation and anger swirling in a furious dance, but Jake's heart thudded in a different rhythm now. He wasn't making a mistake, he was choosing love, hope, and a fierce will to protect his daughter. "You're out of my life," he shouted back, stealing one last glance at the darkness before diving inside the car. The engine roared to life as Jake slammed the door shut. The movement sent a surge of energy coursing through him. They were free, for now. With a screech, the tires spun against the asphalt, blazing a trail away from the collapse of danger they'd left behind. Sitting in the back seat next to Lisa, he turned to her, heart still pounding. "Are you okay?" he asked, the worry etched across his face. "I am now," she breathed, relief almost tangible in the breathy laughter that escaped her. "We did it. We escaped." Jake nodded, drawing a shaky breath, the adrenaline slowly ebbing. "What happens now?" The weight of uncertainty lingered. There would still be battles to face, and questions to answer. The world wasn't done with him yet, and yet, there was a warmth growing inside, a small flame of hope igniting against all odds. They had picked up the threads of life and woven them back together in a moment of chaos. It wasn't over, but they were together, and better days lay ahead. Lisa looked down at her phone, the dim glow casting soft light on her face. "What about the money?" she asked, tears brimming. "We'll figure it out," Jake said firmly, knowing the road ahead would be a challenging one, but filled with newfound strength and camaraderie. "We will fight together." The car sped into the night, the horizon opening up before them, painted with shades of possibility, shadows dissipating in the rearview mirror. They would build a life from the ashes of despair, one filled with purpose, laughter, and a little girl who needed her father. Jake looked out the window as the chaos faded away. The stars above echoed the victory, crying out from deep within him, a joyful scream breaking through the void. "Ready?" Sarah asked, her voice steady and strong like iron. "Yeah," he whispered, and allowed the truth to fill his heart. As they drove into daylight, a new beginning awaited, and for the first time in a long while, Jake felt the weight of the world lift, just a little. But now, there was an urgent rallying call to you, the reader. This is your moment. You need to subscribe now, so you don't miss any of the exclusive stories coming next. Smash that like button now, it really helps the algorithm reach others who need to hear these tales. Don't wait even one more second to share this video. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories. Your support means the world. Join us as we continue to build this community together.